Welcome back to Sasquatch Performance Garage, everybody. Today we're going to be working on my wife's 2005 Honda CR-V. Yesterday when she was coming home from work, while almost at my mom's house, or driving past my mom's house, she noticed a really bad noise with the power steering pump. I told her to just pull into my mom's house so she can check the power steering fluid level. When she got here, the power steering fluid was actually overflowing out the top and was very frothy. Had a lot of air bubbles in it and stuff like that. So that pretty much told me that we have a leak somewhere, kind of on like the vacuum side of the power steering pump, as far as say the hose going from the reservoir to the pump, or the return side of the power steering hoses. If it was a pressure side leak, then we'd just be squirting out everywhere. There wouldn't be any air bubbles because, well, there's not going to be sucking any air in. So this is telling me we've got some air suckage, some air being sucked. So we're going to go ahead and kind of pinpoint where this is at. I know it's going to be somewhere on the return side or the suction side of it. So we're going to go ahead and get in there. We'll most likely also replace the power steering pump while we're at it, since it's right on top and super easy to do. Just because the vanes probably have, since there's been some cavitation inside the pump, the vanes are probably kind of worn out. So we're just going to do that as kind of like a preventative thing. She still has great steering feel, but we want to make sure that we don't have any issues later on down the line. And we will go from there, and I will bring you guys in here shortly and we'll look at it and kind of pinpoint everything, okay? Alright, so here we are looking at the power steering area, or the area where the power steering pump and the reservoir are. As we can see, we got a little bit of seepage, say on the pressure side, and a little bit of seepage on the return or the suction side of the power steering pump. So it's a good thing we're going to replace that. But as you can see here, super wet on top of the reservoir. It was, like I said, overflowing last night when she called me. Now, if we look kind of down into here, you notice we got a lot of power steering fluid on top of the motor mount bracket, along with that power steering return line right there. It looks like it may be either squirting out or it's getting onto the top of it there. That might be our problem right there. Then as well, if we look at the reservoir, you know, it's just right wet on top of that. So that might be leaking from the reservoir itself. I don't notice any necessarily leak coming out of it right now, but it is extremely wet. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is kind of wet down there where the suction hose of the reservoir goes down or connects to the reservoir itself. So that might be our issue there as well. I'm going to take this reservoir out, we'll drain it, take all the hoses off, and we will check to see if there's any cracks in there, or maybe it's just the hose being bad. So we might just replace some hoses here and be good to go. So we will see what we can do there. In this clip, I'm taking out the power steering reservoir, along with checking out the hoses, making sure there's nothing obviously bad about them. Alright, so already got the reservoir taken out, and kind of already ran to I think our main problem is going to be right here on this return line. I can move it back and forth, and I haven't even loosened that clamp. So this hose is probably just need to be replaced, put a better clamp on it. I will inspect everything else, like I said, just to make sure, because you know, it is the wife's car, happy wife, happy life. So we will keep on tearing it apart, make sure that we're all good on everything else, and we will keep on digging deeper and diagnosing. Alright, so here we have our reservoir. Cleaned it up already. It was pretty dirty. Cleaned it up just to make sure there wasn't any cracks on it. Where I was worried about cracks would be right here where the suction side of from the pump to the reservoir is. And everything kind of hard to tell on camera, but I did, you know, examine it pretty well. No cracks or anything like that. So our reservoir is good. It looks like it's all just these hoses that we're messing with here. That are all just, you know, this is a 2005 model, and these look like they're all original hoses. So, you know, they're pretty old. So, you know, good thing to change these hoses. Like I said, that looks like what's causing our problem. And yeah. First thing I did was loosen up the tension on the belt using a 14mm socket and a 3/8 ratchet.
From then I took off the two 10mm headed bolts for the pressure line that's connected directly to the power steering pump. And then looking at hoses and stuff like that, making sure that I'm routed correctly with hoses, or that I remember the way they are routed, because I am replacing all the rubber hoses at this point. I then start taking off the power steering pump. Those are two 12mm bolts to remove the power steering pump. You do not have to take off the pulley to get to that yet. You can take the pulley off when it's on the bench, or if you wanted to loosen up the pulley, you can remove the pulley beforehand. It's a 19mm socket if you wanted to. I chose to do it on the bench with the impact gun. But from there on out, I am looking at all the hoses, making sure I'm routing them correctly again. Biggest pain in the butt is putting the hose on and it's in the wrong orientation. So do it once, do it right. At this point, my wife also wanted to come out and hang out. This is her car, so she wanted to come out and hang out with me in the 25-degree weather, but she didn't want to sit by the propane heaters that I had going on, so that's why she's right in the front there. The new power steering pump did come with new O-rings for the pressure line, along with the elbow for the suction line from the reservoir. So make sure you guys are replacing those. Super easy to do. Just get a little pick, pull the old one off, put the new one on. Mine were actually getting pretty hard and brittle, so they would be leaking here shortly. And also, you can already tell that the pressure line was already leaking a little bit just from the seepage that was on top of the old one from the previous clip. To get the last portion of the return hose, I did jack it up to take the wheel off. At that point, you have full access to get to the rest of the hose where it connects to the metal line going back up front to take off that 10mm bolt that holds that bracket on for the power steering return line as well. This point I'm buttoning it up. Got all new clamps for all the hoses. Like I said before, the original clamps were not good. Alright, so we got everything buttoned up here. Few things that, to kind of think about when you're doing this. So our main, or the starting of our return line is back here. Right, that little guy right there. And then it has some plastic clips. So it has some plastic clips that kind of attach it to right above the rack and pinion. Gonna make sure you're gonna be able to take those apart. Then we have a bracket down here that holds the hose to the rack and pinion. It's a little 10mm headed bolt. So you take that off, then it goes down. So that return line goes to the metal line down there. Pretty easy to get to once you take off the passenger side tire. You can reach it pretty much right through the frame rail there. The metal line continues up front, up to where we had that main issue where our line was really loose and leaking even though the clamp was still very tight. I put all new clamps on. The original clamps did not retain their spring to it, so they didn't go back into where they're supposed to. So I put all new clamps on there. Then we have our reservoir hose here, replaced that one new. All new power steering pump again. So the power steering pump, when you buy it, it's a remanufactured one. Does have a lifetime warranty and all that good stuff. Comes with new O-rings to put on the pressure line, and then the little elbow there for the return suction side. So overall, you know, again, I put the new one on there because it was cavitating and probably the veins got messed up. So put a new one on there just for peace of mind. Already filled it back up, you know, tested everything, no more bubbles, anything like that, so we're good to go. So now our repair is complete.
So to end it off, guys, thanks again for watching another video from Sasquatch Performance Garage. Hope you guys learned a little bit something about this and kind of what could be wrong when you have the symptom of, you know, getting air inside the reservoir and really loud power steering pump. You know, again, I appreciate you guys watching. Please consider subscribing. We got a lot of videos coming and everything like that. A lot of repairs, a lot of modifications, and coming up with all the other vehicles. And I will see you guys later.